Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Evolution Podcast. And welcome. This is my wife, Jen, and myself, Mac Grant. And we're going to be talking a little bit about reference metaphorically to what is an ecosystem, but speaking more about us. And if you don't know what an ecosystem is, it's just a balanced system that kind of works in itself. It's like Mother Nature, right? When it comes to the world, as the weather and everything moves around, there's energy in it, there's all these different things, but it's kind of like if you have a really cold time, then it has to get warmer to balance out. And so there's this balance of automatic effects of things that begin to happen that kind of, whether you like it or not, is going to balance itself out. But we're going to reference this a little bit to some of the things in life on like what is our ecosystem and what happens if it gets out of whack, kind of like a tornado or a hurricane, because when weather gets crazy trying to balance itself out, it can do things destructive trying to create balances. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of, this is a spur of the moment. So I'm going to kind of go to Jen here a little bit and see what her version of, like, how would you say, like, what is your interpretation of maybe creating an ecosystem that is Orange County rather than Washington where it rains all the time?
Okay. Well, I personally like calm ecosystem. We're kind of maybe year round. It's pretty
60 to 80 degrees, sunny
60,
most of the time.
60 to 80 degrees, sunny. I maybe like a little strong winds here and there, but overall, I think I like a pretty calm ecosystem. And I truly believe that's the what I'm creating around me. And I don't really know what more to say except when you were talking about creating an ecosystem, the first thing that comes to my mind is um, our experience with my ex-husband this week at
Mm.
Cameron's school. Um, like I feel like now that you and I are married and we are one, and I think that we're creating an ecosystem around us,
Mhm.
with our church people, with my ex-husband, with the neighbors, and with Cameron and his friends, and just everybody. And I like calm, and so I'm just really grateful that that is the environment that we're creating, and it is being shown to me that this calm, beautiful 60 to 80 degree ecosystem is possible because um, it's happening.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't know
That's a good, it's a good reference to it.
what.
Kind of like creating your own ecosystem, saying, hey, this is what I want. How do I create it? And then making it balance out so that there aren't those radical changes. With that being said, I think sometimes that you're going to have radical changes. And one of the things about an ecosystem that's very cool is no matter how hard you try to screw it up, or how unintentional or deliberate or whatever you do, or even if you don't know what you're doing, no matter what, it's going to automatically bring itself to balance. Even if that requires radical changes, if it requires a divorce, if it requires a financial disaster, if it requires a physical struggle, there's certain things that says, life in itself is an ecosystem and it's always going to balance out, and trusting the process of like whatever situation you're in or whatever's happening, saying, like, the world is built in such a way that it must bring balance somewhere. Now it might be a turmoil that gets balanced very quickly, or it might be a long term, like slightly different, slightly crazier. A year in Orange County, California is mostly balanced, until somebody starts screwing with things and seeds the clouds and causes a bunch of floods. That's a little difference there. But we might do that to ourselves. But there's some people in life that it's just balanced. And then there's other places like, you know, Alaska, Siberia, the desert, Egyptian deserts, Africa, these crazy climates. And that's how a lot of us are. Like our lives are radically ups and downs, different things, whatever, and we'll go through different phases and stages. But personally, if you want to have an ecosystem that is predictable, then you control it. You do the work, you do certain things to make sure that you're not disrupting the ease of an ecosystem. And that's one, just knowing what you want, having the desire, setting it into play, and then looking at it and saying, okay, what are the elements of my ecosystem? What are the different things that are actually the big things that I have to kind of monitor, maintain, to know this is part of my ecosystem. And when you look at that, you're looking at one, your body. Your body is going to be like the physical ecosystem that you exist inside of. Then you've got your spirituality, which is your emotional and feeling ecosystem that has regulations to it. Then now keep in mind, all of these are an ecosystem, so they all influence each other. If one gets messed with, it can affect all the others. So you have your body, you have your spirituality, then you have your relationships, right? If she's part of my ecosystem and something gets crazy here, guess what? My ecosystem's going to have could have some rainy days, or wintry days, or very hot days. We don't know, which could be good, bad, or indifferent. And then also the financial. All these things are very specific in the ecosystem, because you can have all of them running and then have one go sideways, and it will affect all of them. If I depend on my body to work, and that's what maintains my financial position, and let's say I've got a really good balanced ecosystem financially, perfect, but it requires my physical body to work. Well, guess what? If I get injured, my financial goes down, then it usually affects me spiritually in some way, and then it begins to affect my relationship in some way. So one turn of events can completely affect the ecosystem. Now, here's the good thing about an ecosystem. If this were to happen, one, two, three, four, they all start to fail, the storm comes in, everything, the ecosystem still says it has to balance itself back out. It can't just crash and burn. And anybody that's been through anything understands that. You might be in the middle of it thinking, oh, I'm never going to get back there, it's never going to get solved. But some of us that have been through it 6, 7, 8 times, we're like, yeah, it's like clockwork. You kind of start here, things happen, it's disruptive, it comes back down, then you go back up and you wind up even higher than before. But it's just this ecosystem that processes kind of like the seasons of the year. Spring, summer, fall, winter. There's a winter is kind of the death of the end of things. Spring is when you're like, I want something different. So then what? You begin to plant and seed and till and put in the effort and fertilize and do all this work. And then summer comes along, and you kind of get to slow down a little bit and take a break. And then in the fall, you reap the harvest. Now, for me, this seems to be sometimes a 4-year to 8-year cycle that this happens. And it might be, and it's been things unpredictable sometimes as well, where I'm doing all this work, everything else, and then something unexpected happens, financial catastrophe, crushed, whatever. And now I've got to pick it all back up, and I pick it back up, and it goes back up, and everything works. Sometimes my body, something happens physically. I'm like, oh shit, I was doing so good and I was reaping the benefits, and then I overdid it. Fuck, no longer reaping the benefits. This is now winter, and now I have to redo this in my relationship. Did all the work, put in the work, did the effort, boom, great relationships, and then all of a sudden, yeah, this isn't harvest anymore. This is winter, 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 winter. Is fucking winter ever going to end? And then what sucks is it ends, and it's not kind of the ending that you wanted. You wanted just to skip winter and have spring, and just be like, can't we just fix this? And yeah, maybe sometimes you can. But the reality is even in the struggle, the ecosystem says it's going to come back around. It has to, by law. By the way by the way God built the world, everything has a balance, and the crazier you get, the more it comes back. This even goes as far back. I mean, just to kind of step out this conversation for a second into like the Garden of Eden, where it's like the tree of life, the tree of knowledge. The tree of knowledge was the one that was sin, right? Knowing what's bad lets you know what is good. So having the winter quantifies summer,
Mm.
right? Without it, you wouldn't even understand what an ecosystem is. Without it, it would just be monotonous. You wouldn't want or desire anything. You wouldn't seek for anything. You wouldn't need for anything. You'd just be a grain of sand. That's all you'd be. Okay. So understand the value in the ups and the downs. So kind of just looking at that and saying, okay, I recognize that there's an ecosystem in my body, in my relationship, in my spirituality, and in my money. And then break those down individually. The ecosystem that is my body, there's pieces here. One is what is going in my body? How am I feeding my body? How am I using my body? How am I growing and gaining with my body? You know, what's my body doing for me? Is my body in winter? Is my body in summer, in fall, in spring? Which is it? This day and age, one of the steps of your body is actually detoxing your body, getting the toxins and poisons out, changing how it works, adapting to the new environment that you're getting in. Our world is changing. It's still an ecosystem, and if we piss our world off enough, it'll just wipe us out as the problem. Okay, so like all this stuff about global warming and stuff, I'm like, we're never going to end the world, because the world will end us before we can end it, because it is an ecosystem. So with that being said, I'm not too worried about that piece of it, because it always balances out. People always figure out new technology before the problem ever gets too bad. And there's a lot of cool stuff coming out recently because of growth, which is cool. So you got to remember, if my body's here, the world is evolving. I can't just stay in one position. I have to move with everything else, with my environment. So my body has the food in, food out, toxins in, toxins out, environment, what's around me, that's part of the toxins and food, environment. But also there's this weird thing that ties in with spirituality and physical environment. And that's what is my mind doing to my body? And then what is my body doing to my mind? Because if you don't understand the connection between biology and psychology, as in your soul, there's these two different things that affect each other harmoniously together. If I'm in pain, do you think I'm thinking positive or negative? Generally negative. If I'm thinking negative, what kind of hormones is my brain going to tell my body to produce? Good ones or bad ones? Spring or summer, like, or winter? Which one is it? If you're at high stress levels all the time, you're breaking down your body. That's just how it is. Now, you still need some levels to that, but all the time is going to be a problem. So you've got to consider that even if you're doing everything perfect for your body, but your finances are shit, you're running at high stress, doesn't matter what you're taking in for food, because you're emotionally killing it. This is a massive ecosystem that needs to be understood, that says, yes, there may be times in your life where all of your attention goes to your body because you have a major problem, but you can't neglect your relationship or your finances or your spirituality. And even if I were to have something major with my relationship going on, I can't neglect my wife, or trust me, I'm going to have a lot bigger problems, which then in turn is just going to make my physical part even worse. Right? Like, there's how many of you know someone that has been in, like they physically have a problem, they wind up, their relationship takes a toll, and then their finances kind of take a toll, their mentality and everything takes a toll, they wind up divorced, and then their physical, their body just takes a dive from there. I've seen it a lot. And then they get stuck in the victim story of poor me. And now they identify as the divorced, busted person that, you know, how could that person leave me in the state that I was in? Till death do us part, blah, 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 blah. Shut up and get off your ass and do something about it. You know, like that's the thing, is like, it's your ecosystem. um, there's, you know, if I suppose if you really want to do something here, take notes. You know, pull out your pen and paper and write it down. What is the ecosystem of my body? What would you, Jen? What would you say the ecosystem of your body? I listed some off, but you know, is there any that you can add as far as like things that are relevant to your physical being?
Things that are relevant to my physical being.
Yeah, like maybe things that you do to keep yourself healthy, or things that you haven't done that you're like, I need to do, or things you've done that was like, I shouldn't do.
I don't know, like being conscious of the food I put in my body,
Okay, food,
getting outside and
outside in the sun. Yep.
sunshine.
May we do not understand how important that is today, because it's like our body doesn't make very many vitamins, but it makes vitamin D. But it has to have the sun to do it. Usually, well, not all the time, but mainly. So, what else?
Um, Exercise,
Exercise, movement,
stretching.
stretching,
Um,
like movement, mobility.
does like hygiene count?
Absolutely, hygiene's a huge one.
Hmm. Um, does meditation go with this, or is that something else? Spirituality.
I would probably put meditation more in the spirituality, but like I said, they do cross. But
Hmm.
let's put meditation in the other one.
Hmm. What else? I don't know. What else?
Detox,
For detox.
right?
Hmm.
Like getting the poisons
I
out when
thought
you
you
need to.
said that already.
Well, I did. I'm refreshing. I said write it down, take notes, write it down. So I'm going over.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Detox,
going back over.
different supplements.
Supplements, nutrition in.
Hmm. Nutrition.
Mhm.
Um, not putting in bad things, like not eating sugars and alcohol and
Yeah, yeah. Here's one that's disturbing. Um, Most people that have had dental done, if you've had a root canal, that's very toxic. You know, and get them out. You know, get fake teeth or whatever. But any metal in your system or root canals is extremely bad for your body. It blocks pathways. Root canals are always infected, you know, which I didn't know. I've got some I need to deal with as well. So that kind of sucks, where it's like, great, now I get to go spend even more money than I already spent to fix a problem that somebody else created now. That, you know, like, even though I created it because I didn't take care. I drank too much soda back in the day.
maybe like massage,
Yep.
chiropractic. Does that?
But possibly, I mean, I think chiropractic and massage in the right way can be a vibration raiser and can move the body in ways that are healthy.
Hmm.
Fasting, I think, is a massive,
Fasting.
a really important one.
Been really enjoying fasting.
Yeah, like that's something that goes back since the beginning of time. And scientifically, when you look at it, the effects that fasting have is such a powerful tool at one, raising your vibration, but two, longevity, that it's really important. And in that, mental health, completely game changing. The clarity you get after like a 72-hour fast, like you just think different. Your emotions are different, but there's also a discipline. And I think one of the number one things that, like, God sent us here to figure out was to master the body. And fasting is one of those things that when you fast, you have to master your own hunger. You have to master the stories in your mind and everything else to be able to overcome the physical, like, cravings and addictions and different things like that. You know, some of the things we've both done is quitting drinking and quitting smoking. Right, bad things, get them out. like working at it, being like an ecosystem, even though I still performed at a very high level when I smoked. And in fact, I performed, I could outperform most people when I smoked, and there was even some slight benefits to it in some ways. However, there's still a cap to your ecosystem when you're doing those types of behaviors, and it just doesn't work.
That's what I was gonna say. The ecosystem that we were wanting to create, those habits had to go
Yeah.
in order to create what we wanted, the
Mm.
ecosystem to move it up.
Yep.
Hmm.
Gets higher and higher.
Hmm.
So anything else that we're missing with the body? Well, I'm gonna throw this one in there. Sex, right? Like sex is part of the physical ecosystem. And if you're not taking care of those other things, then it changes. I guarantee you that like what you eat changes your performance, changes your desires, changes your aptitude to it, your level of intimacy, your level of connection. All of those things are factors. Even down to the point of if you drink an energy drink that has something like sucralose in it, energetically it blocks the communication in the back, like kind of like in the back of your brain, and how fast the communication is, but it disrupts the emotional factor. And that emotional factor, when you're being intimate with somebody and becoming one with them, when that gets disrupted, it becomes more like you're just fucking, you're not being intimate and close. And there is a very different thing that I would call versus, just banging versus like actually having a connection where you're both coming together. It's a freaking amazing. It's the type of thing where every once in a while you hit the right thing and it's just like the volcano blows up, and for both people, and it's very amazing. And like also like for women, having kids, that's a physical ecosystem going on. Women have an ecosystem of just their time of the month coming around every time, that not only has to do with their physical body but has to do with the freaking moon. Right, so we've got our physical being and our physical earth, and all these different things playing factors on us. So as you take notes on like what am I paying attention to, what am I watching, am I even aware? Most women have no idea of the hormones that they're dealing with, or the things they should be understanding. And in fact, as a man, I know more about women's bodies than probably more than 70% of women. I think it's actually higher than that, but I'm, just from what I've interacted with, it's odd to me when I'm informing women what they're dealing with. Like, why don't you know? You should be studying yourself, your biology, your physical ecosystem on your own. Even if it's just, every 3 months, get a book, set it down by your nightstand that has to do with you educating you about what the things that are dealing with hormonally, that is up to date with what we're dealing with in our world. Some of it's very old school. Some of it's very much like, hey, you're a woman. You were born with eggs, which means you have a stewardship over life, which means you are going to be an instinctual caretaker, whether you like it or not. And you wonder why you have some crazy moments, because like there's this thing inside of you that says, I have to take care of this or else, like it's my job. I don't know what else to do. I feel like I fail if I don't do this. Why do I feel crazy about this? Well, because you were born that way. It's okay. Like, and most women have this struggle. And just by telling them you were born that way, it's okay, they're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. They've never heard it before. And so like do yourself a favor and get some of these books. I think I read one that was like The Woman Unleashed or something by I can't remember her name right now. Sonia something, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll do something. We should just do a podcast on it actually, because there's a lot of good stuff in there that helps both men and women understand certain things, but there's a lot in there that I realized that I kind of knew about. It helped clarify, but women had no idea about it. So physically know your stuff. And guys, understand that when you do things like drink, it affects how you show up intimately. It affects how you can do things, how you communicate, how she's going to trust you. So very much that physical aspect has an effect on your relationship piece and your spirituality piece. And you can say whatever you want, like it's bullshit. It does affect it. And it will not result in as high of an ecosystem. And so know that just when you are doing that, it's going to be lowered. It's just like, I know if I eat a whole shit ton of sugar, it has some kind of an effect that it doesn't if I don't for a long time.
What about porn? How does that affect your
Porn is horrible.
physical ecosystem?
For a man, porn is absolutely horrible. It's not only the physical ecosystem, but chemically what happens in the brain, it causes an addiction, and then it causes a never good enough factor. And then it literally causes you to disconnect, and like the intimacy that you can have can never be the same. And it takes so much longer to reverse the effects of pornography to become intimate with a woman. So
That's like what you were talking about in the last podcast with the it's like a thorn in your side.
oh yeah, yeah. So like, if I have this thing if I was hiding it from her, it'd be something I'd be hiding, and I'd be insignificant in myself, and I wouldn't really be content. And so one of the things when after, like, I'd been working on beating the addiction to porn and masturbation and this stuff for my whole life until I was about 40, 39, 40. And one of the things that I wanted was like, all I truly want is to be able to look at my wife like she is the hottest fucking thing on the planet and need nothing else. I don't want anything. Now, I know there's beautiful women and different things, but I wanted to myself personally yearn for a wife and no one else. I wanted my eyes to get shut to everyone else and just be open for her. That's it. Okay. And I didn't know how that was going to happen, but that's what I wanted. Now, this was before I even met Jen. I just said, you know what? This is like, I don't want to play this game because it never ends. Pornography never ends. And then it gets disgusting. And then the next thing you know, you see some 14-year-old chick and it's like, God, get that shit out of here. And yet there's all these guys getting addicted to it and then traveling overseas, fucking children, and it's disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. So when if you're dealing with this thing, understand I dealt with this. I'm not judging, but I'm going to tell you straight up. If you want the rewards of life, deal with it. And for me, dealing with it was wanting to change it for almost 40 years of my life. Wanting, like, sometimes being able to stop and get away from it, but always winding up back in it. And usually when I wound up back in it, it was worse. And it was like, damn it, and then begging and finding it, and just like begging God to be like, I don't know what to do. Take it from me, do something, whatever. I don't care. And for somehow, some way, I stumbled into, after one thing after another. But one of the things I did was I did a detox, and I think that had a major effect. And I will tell you that most of the foods and sugars, like high fructose corn syrup and things like those, eating a lot of those will actually has a relation to your desires and your wants to sedate with porn. There is a connection there. It's a physical connection that causes an emotional thing that then draws it in. Because when I beat this addiction, I'd gotten completely away from sugar, completely. And then it was like all of a sudden it just broke and I was done. I was free from it. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I started eating like shit again, and it was trying to creep back in. And I was like, what in the hell? And so then I quit, and I've tested it a few times and I can tell. And so anytime that my diet isn't on point, I'm very aware to make sure things don't get in, like the other stuff doesn't creep in, because I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'd love to say I eat healthy all the time and everything else, but I don't. Sometimes I am off, but I try to eat more naturally. Like if it's going to be sugar, I try to find sugars that are of high value, or at least natural, so my body can actually process them appropriately. So again, not trying to be judgmental about it. I'm just trying to say, hey, start with one little thing and then do the next. I mean, I remember when I kind of listened to The Science of Being Well by Wallace D. Wattles, and it referenced the point of just do what the body tells you to do. And knowing in that moment, the body's going to tell me to do what it's addicted to, right? Like not what's healthy. So I got to beat all the addictions to then be able to listen to the body, but having the desire to get there. And it took me 8 years to get to a point where if you hand me food with sucralose in it, I can taste it and be like, that's shit, get it out of here. I don't want it. Like don't, or erythritol, like I'll drink a drink. There's something in this. And I look at it. Yep, sure as shit. Get that out of here. Like I can actually listen to my body now, but it took 8 years to do that. It wasn't, oh, I'm just going to cut this out and do this thing. So that is one big thing. But like I will tell you that because I've done these things in different ways than I expected, but now I don't seek it like the porn or other women or anything. Like she's beautiful to me. Like there's I can't even explain it. But it's because one, I had the desire to do it, and two, I shut off all that other shit. And slowly it begins to kind of take away the numbness that I had created after the exposure to so much shit over that many years. Okay.
Well, yeah, because the more that you clear the smoke and the fog, the clearer you can see.
Yep. So it's working, right? Okay. So you've got some points there that like things to look at, to consider as far as that physical body piece. And when you get the physical body on point more and more all the time, that's when the spirituality also goes up. And when that goes up, it also affects the body and you go even higher. And then it's just a matter of understanding that you have ups and downs and don't worry about it. It's an ecosystem and you just keep getting better. But the most important part that of our lives is the spiritual piece. If you have a relationship problem, a financial problem, or a body problem, address your spiritual problems. Like stop lying, tell the truth, expose your shit, don't give a shit about anything else, chase God. Okay, like that will fix your problems, that in itself. However, you may not understand that, you may not be ready for it. And I can tell you, especially as a man, if you just work on your body, it'll come. If you start working out consistently or some level of discipline, if you cut like one bad thing out of your diet and you start working on that physical piece, it has an effect that helps you get to those places that you need spiritually. So it's kind of like a like I know I need this, but I have to do this because I know if I change something in my body, it will change my vibration and it will help me get there. It will either help me in my relationship or whatever, or help me in my money. I've never I've never gone and started working out, and like I started working out, I create this discipline and not had my money go up, my relationship get better, or my spirituality get better. Right. Now, sometimes, yeah, it does lead to if you're in the wrong headspace, it can lead to some problems. As in, you start to look really good, you're not getting what you want, and you go chase it somewhere else. Yeah, that's a problem. But it's like that's because you're not addressing the spiritual shit. So, in conjunction with raising the body, you need to be addressing the spiritual side of things and understanding that if you're self-sacrificing, that's kind of a spiritual problem. It's an emotional problem that you have to eliminate at the same time as correcting the body issues. So, looking at the let's go to like probably the easiest one to quantify out of any of them, and that's the financial. Right? What are some of the ecosystems of finances? There's two major ones.
Two major ecosystems of finances.
Yeah. There's different compartments, but the two major ones is one is income and one is spending.
I was going to say know the score.
Yeah, it's definitely knowing the score, but you've got in finances, you've got income and expenses. That's the basis of finances, income and expenses. From there, you can go through different levels. Number one, if you want to have a healthy ecosystem, spend less than you earn. Don't spend money that isn't yours. Spend less than you earn. Now, in today's society, the chances of you not spending someone else's money is slim to none. None, particularly, right? Because you have a credit card, or you're allowed to overdraft a bank, or you're allowed to do any of these things. That's where you get in trouble. You take out a loan, you're spending someone else's money. So if you have a mortgage, if you have a car, if you have anything, a credit card, you are not inside an ecosystem that's working for you. It's working against you. Now, most of us don't know any better, and so this is how we did it. Now, there's a different level to this that says, well, what about how they say just learn how to spend other people's money and you can get rich? Well, that's different. There's something called an asset versus an expense, or something that's I lost the word for it. devaluing, whatever. I can't think of the term, but something that's losing value where you have an asset or a liability. It's like they call it a liability. So a liability is something that's depreciating that you, especially if you have a loan on it and it's depreciating like an automobile, that's a problem, right? There's no automobiles out there that are appreciating enough to really call an asset. However, you can, if you have money, if you buy it with cash, you could call it an asset, like an old car, classic car, things like that. Those can be assets, but it can't, you can't borrow money on a car and call it an asset because it's not going to make you enough to cover the interest that you're going to owe. Whereas like on a house, they can kind of be considered assets because usually if you buy, you pay, you sell someday, it breaks even at least. Because over 30 years, you're going to pay more than, $1 million. If it's $1 million house, you're going to pay two. So how in 30 years, you better be selling it for 2 million, which you kind of break even. Um, but if you're really smart, what you do is you spend less than you earn. You take that money, you set it over here, you invest it in somewhere that pays, and you continually do it until you can live off of 50% of your investment producing income. Most of you have no idea what I just said. It will take you like 10, 20, 50 times to understand what I just said. Some of you that do, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you that, if you don't know what I just said in that little statement, it means you just need to practice on setting money aside so that when the opportunity comes for you to produce, to turn your money into 10x, 20, 30, 100x, that you have the bag sitting there to put it in. Wealth is not create wealth is not discovered by a fat check. Wealth is discovered by the person that knows how to spend less than they earn. It's that simple. Because that, if a kid understands this principle and understands, hey, if I just set some money aside and set it aside and set it aside, and they have a discipline that is in that manner, they will become wealthy. Because one day they're going to be sitting on an extra $100,000, and someone's going to say, why don't you do it with this? And the kid's going to say, well, how does that make me money? And if they don't believe you, they're not going to invest because they have a discipline that says, don't waste money. Like always spend less than you earn. And so to them, it's like, if I earned this money, if I'm going to put it up, it has to earn me money. How's it going to earn me money? And then all of a sudden, this money sitting is earning them money and they're still working. So they don't need anything from this. And it begins to grow and it begins to grow and it begins to grow and it begins to grow. And then one day they say, I'd like to change my lifestyle. And if I only take 50% of that money that's growing, it means I can still put 50% back in. So it continues growing and my paycheck gets really fat. And then I can quit my job and do whatever the hell I want. Or you can be like 99% of Americans, spend like crazy, always owe debt to someone, and have this misery that usually tears apart relationships, physically puts stress on you, and is a very unhappy life. Whereas if we were just taught this in school, life would be a lot different. But school doesn't teach taxes, it doesn't teach money, it doesn't teach anything actually useful in the fucking world. It teaches how do you follow a system. That's it. So if you're going to go be a doctor, you got to go to school. If you're going to be a mathematician, you got to go to school. If you're going to be a scientist, you're going to go to school. But if you're not actually going to be those things, then start plugging those kids or yourself into anything that trains you on finance. That's it. So pretty simple. You've got income versus expense. Spend less than you earn on all things. Stop using other people's money unless it makes you money. And this let me clarify this. If I get $100,000 from someone else and I put it to work and I make another $100,000, I'm not spending that money. That's not my income. That's my investment bag. Once I've created an extra $100,000 for myself and made them some money, now this is my money. Once it's mine, once this piece is mine, now I can take a piece of it and spend it for myself. But I don't want to spend all of it because then I won't have anything left. So like, don't borrow to buy a car or whatever. If you do, fine, do what you got to do, but reduce your expenses to where you can at least spend less than you earn. Okay, so if you make a car payment, don't be cashing your checks every month being like, oh, I'm screwed. Always be increasing in some way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It was really good.
All right.
Best training there on money I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, I try to keep it simple. There's more to it, and usually what happens is people hear me talk about it, they start freaking out because they're in the bad situation, and so then they start shutting down. And I'm like, there's always a way. Um, I have several clients that when I just have them write out certain things, like I have a Google sheet. It's like, here, do this. And they're like, and they screw it up. I got to tell them to do it again, do it again, do it again. And then they do it. And then I look at it and I'm like, what's this? What's this? What's this? And we go through it real quick. I have them solve a few things. And within a few months, they are spending way less than they earn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whereas they were like, every paycheck's gone, if not behind, using a credit card, till all of a sudden, wait, I got all this money. Wait, I couldn't make my mortgage, and now I'm catching up a past mortgage. How the hell is this? What's happening here? It's like, just trust the process. It's it's like, it's not hard. It's more mental than it is anything else. So, um, yeah.
You're so good.
Well, I had to learn it the hard way. So this isn't this isn't something where I just went, oh yeah, this is what you need to do. This is me growing up, starting life in a trailer house, one of 11 kids, working to buy my own shit, and then figuring out what business was, figuring out how to start a business, how to understand, like, I needed to save money to pay for the parts or pay for whatever, like, you know, having to like scrounge to get by, and then understanding, like, hey, you have to have some what we call fuck you money. Like, even if you work a job, that energetically, it if you don't need your paycheck, it's like everybody at work respects you more.
Hmm.
So like when I would work, I would save money until I never needed that paycheck that was coming that month. Now I needed it next month, but I got to where I was a paycheck ahead, and I just kept advancing that, and then two paychecks, then three paychecks, and at one point, I remember in like, well, it was kind of funny because I wound up not in a relationship, and in like 4 months, I had three paychecks just sitting in my center console that weren't even cashed. And so, but it's like it gives you a different posture and authority when it's like, I don't need this job. Like, I'm way ahead. I don't need this job. I respect this job. I work this job. I do my best at this job, but I don't need this job. And it's like everybody knows, and they just treat you different. Versus when you're coming to your boss for an advance, like, come on, be an adult. Like, that should happen once in somebody's like career, where something happened completely unexpected. It was a major catastrophe. Can you help me out? But when it, like, I see these guys every month, I need an advance. I need an advance. And they're just like giving them little pieces because they're like, I need them to work, So it's like, stop, guys, stop doing that. Okay. I
All
don't,
right, what's next on the ecosystem?
yeah. So yeah, let's move it on. Okay. So one of the most challenging that you're going to have is the relationship. So we got the easiest is the financial, the easiest to change is the body, like to get movement. The most important is going to be your spirituality, but the most challenging is your relationship. Why do you think that is?
Because it's with another person, but also relationships mirror back at you, like your
Well, I can't control you.
right.
That's what makes it hard. Because like, if I'm trying to control my ecosystem, or at least prepare for it, I can't control you, which makes my ecosystem predictable completely. Who knows? And that can be scary.
Which is probably why a lot of people who are killing it in, let's say, the money and maybe in their body and maybe in their spirituality, but maybe that's why they struggle in the relationship part because it's the one thing that they can't control.
Mm-hmm.
So we put all our focus on the other three areas.
Yep.
Yes.
Usually the two areas:
Body and money.
body and money.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That,
because I think a lot of people just don't know the importance of the spirituality part.
yeah. Well, a lot of people avoid it because they've been in a religion that just put pressure on them. So like the pressure unbalanced their
We tend
ecosystem.
to want to put our energy into what we can control, and relationships are harder to quote unquote control.
Yeah. So
Yes.
what, but within the ecosystem of a relationship, what do you think are the things it's like, I need to make sure I'm doing these things?
You need to make sure that you are taking care of you,
Yep.
um, honoring yourself, being truthful,
Hmm.
growing.
That's a big one.
Uh,
That that's a whole nother training, right? And because they're like, how many relationships are there that people have like, I've got this, or they just stopped, they just quit trying to figure it out.
well, a lot. I think a lot of times once you like get married and you kind of you got it, it's like you just kind of stop.
Yeah, they just quit in a
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
So growth is a major one, one together and two apart, like not apart but separate. Like if I have to be working on myself in growth, it's kind of spiritual, but also inside of like, how am I advancing my relationship?
I feel like love is seeking to understand. And so if we love each other, that means we will constantly and like always be seeking to understand each other,
Mhm.
which means we will always be seeking to like, we'll be growing always because it's always like I'm seeking to understand
Mhm.
rather than like thinking we know it all. So we just stop.
Yeah. And I would say one of the biggest ones for me is actually putting energy into my relationship. Like it is as important as the other things in my life. So understandably, most of us put the most time into work of some sort. Whether for a guy, it might be a job or a business that you're running. For a woman, it could be a job or a business. It could be taking care of the kids. It could be taking care of the house. It could be, except like in anything. So there's like all this effort that goes into there. And you think about what are you putting even 10% into your relationship? Understand, 10% is 2.4 hours a day.
I think the answer is probably no, because a lot of times people don't even know what to do.
No.
That's why they run
Yep.
away from it.
Yep. And the reality is you probably don't have to actually put that much time into it. But you'd better at least be putting 2.4 hours in a week.
2.4.
Well, it's just that's 10% of a day, 2.4 hours. So the question is like, are like, if it's, are you willing to put in 10% of your efforts in life into your relationship when you say it's such an important thing for you? Doesn't sound like much until you actually say it's 2.4 hours a day. And most people don't even do 2.4 a week. So for us, I don't even think we do intentionally 2.4. I think we probably connect more than that. But there's certain things where it's like intentionally once a day, I'm trying to push something to her, to show her she's important, to fuel her, to fill up her tank a little, right? Like that, I'm going to do that, try to do it daily if I can. And then I'm also going to do things at least weekly that make sure she knows she's getting that 2.4 plus hours once a week minimum, right? Like there's something that says you are this important to me, this valuable to me, and I want to connect with you. It becomes very, very valuable. And then it comes down to all those other things. This is my body where it needs to be to fulfill her. Now, keep in mind, she doesn't come before me, right? I don't self-sacrifice. I did that before. It's destructive. But what happens is when I'm good with me, I want to do everything for her. So then it appears like she's everything. But if I'm down, I'm having problems, or if I'm struggling or anything else, it usually means either I'm not expressing an emotion, I'm not dealing with something, or I'm in a temporary problem state that I need to kind of let her in, fill her in, or whatever. And if I'm just honest about it and I expose it, then she knows I'm still putting effort into us, even if it's all about me, because I'm trying to deal with my problem. Now she knows the truth. Now that happens, and she's like, "Oh, he's such a good dude, trying to take care of himself so that he can take care of me." Great. How like it all works out when it's honest and true. But if I go like a week, I mean, sometimes I travel, but if I go a week or 2 weeks and we haven't gone and done something that's like kind of separates us from the world, I I've kind of made a, I don't know, it's almost like something inside me has gotten triggered to the point where if something's not happening, I like start getting antsy, like I got to do something different. It's my own internal ecosystem about to break shit that says, no, we're not doing this. We need to go do some, we need to go have some fun. And I'm going to disconnect from the world. We're going to go on a hike. We're going to disappear. We're going to drive up in the mountains. We're going to jump on a plane and go somewhere. I don't care. We're going to do something because that monotony is unacceptable to me. And that's a different kind of ecosystem that says, nope, this isn't going to work, steps in and begins to bring the rain, right? To grow, to do whatever is required. So with all of this going on, it is not easy to be in a relationship and have the trust that the ecosystem is going to balance because you can't control it. But if you're doing all the other things of making sure, if you're looking at all the things in your body that you have to address, the spirituality piece, which is mainly understanding you're going to make mistakes, you're going to sin, but you need to be living in a way that keeps you connected to God. And even if you make a mistake, it's like, okay, yeah, I jacked that up. I don't know how to fix it yet. You may not even be ready to, but at least you're owning it and saying it would probably be better if I correct this in some way when I can or when I'm ready. And you're just making some progress. There's a key to happiness. What did I say the other day about progress and happiness? Your
You,
expectations of progress will determine your happiness or something.
it was the law, your
So
expectations of progress.
yeah, so when you're dealing with a spiritual piece, it really comes down to kind of what you're thinking about is like an expectation. And if you think that God's going to hate you for something you did, that's not a good thing. You're going to be screwed. God just wants you to like, hey, yeah, own it, expose it, move on, keep trying to do better. We're not going to get through. What is it? Your expectation of progress is going to determine your happiness. Yeah. So keep that in mind as you're dealing with the spiritual piece of understanding yourself, saying that like, hey, I can always do better, I can always be there. Part of this that has become a key factor for me is I'm around other guys that I can expose stuff to. We hold each other at a standard. We don't hide things, we just put them out there, even though sometimes it's like, oh, I feel like an idiot, I feel like an absolute fool that I gotta tell these dudes about this. Like, they don't give a shit. I try to justify it out of my head and I'm like, no, you gotta just spill it. And so I spill it, which keeps me closer to God because it's showing humility to the process that was commanded to us to do. So when I'm doing that and my spirituality is on point, which means I'm asking God for things constantly. I'm asking God to help me with my finances, to help me with my relationship, and to help me with my body. And if I'm going to ask God for it, then I should probably be doing a little bit to say, hey, I'm trying to do what you want me to do. There's a lot of stuff I'm not doing, but I'm getting better a little bit every day. And and he's like, just keep going, like whatever. And I feel like I'm shown that in the successes that I get inside my relationship, my finances, and my body. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have ups and downs, but it keeps me driven. So that's a piece of the spirituality, that when you have that, your mind is at peace, which then has effect on the hormones in your body, which then makes your body run better, which also makes you more content, which then helps you with your finances, your stability. It helps you see things clearly. It can help you see things that you normally couldn't see and bring things in that you normally wouldn't have. You begin to manifest solutions that you can't see.
Well, if you can level up in all these areas. If you're a man doing all the things that Mac is saying to do, like taking care of getting the body piece in working ecosystem, getting the spirituality piece going, and the finances all working, like even those three pieces, if you're a single man, that makes you a high value man. And you will attract all types of women, but you will then also
Yeah.
attract like high value women.
Yeah. That, and you'll be treated the way you should be treated. But what's cool to me is, I just do this thing, do this stuff, trust God. And it just so happens that he created the perfect woman for me that understands my failures as much as my successes, and loves who I am and what I'm about, and supports me when I need it, when I least expect it. That's the incredible piece. And I solely contribute that to God, and just continuing to try to do better in what he asks for. That is spirituality to me, on the mental part. And number one, remember this: nothing, no one, nothing in the world can control your soul. That is a God-given right. So even though we will look at the body to say, this is where I want you to start your focus. I want you to start a discipline that serves you every day. Now, if you are the type that already works out all the time, you probably are. But if you're doing this all the time, and you've got this down, then it's like, okay, I've got that down. Then you just go, what's the next step? How's your food? Oh, I've got that. Okay, great. Have you detoxed? Have you actually done like a staged, intensive process that can get into the deepest levels of your brain, that can then change the hormonal balances of your cells? Have you done that? That's something to look at. And then with that, you look at your environment. What's your environment? Where are you putting yourself? Even though you might have good foods, you might be in a bad environment. And that goes down to mental health as much as physical health. Okay. And then it's with the finances, and you just kind of work through these things. But that piece of, if you've got the body and the money down, and if you're, let's say your relationship is off point, then it's definitely your spirituality that needs adjusted. There's probably a story, or something, or a lie, something you're covering up, not exposing, and like God commanded that you fucking expose this shit with other men. That's just like, it's in the Bible. It says do this, because what happens when you do it, there's an energy that gets released from you. You have freedom. It's hard to do, but it's rewarding once done. Like, you can trust me on that. I've been around hundreds of men that have done this. Same thing. They'll tell you the exact same thing. So again, trust the process. Women, ladies, same thing. Like, when you tell the truth about who you are, or you tell the truth about how you feel, you will actually feel loved. If if you continue to put on the mask and hide from the stories, or posture yourself because you think somebody's not going to think you're a bad mom, or think that you're not pretty enough, or all this shit that you got to deal with mentally and emotionally inside of yourself, you have to get past that to say, honestly, truly, this is who I am. Spill it, and trust that someday you're fully going to be seen for who you are. And when someone fully sees you and they stay there and they love you, you're going to have a level of love you've never experienced in your life. And I think you can speak to that, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's things that a lot of times women they'll have hidden, and they don't even know it. And I'll see it, I'll call it out. So you need to tell your husband this. Oh, I couldn't do that. Like, no, you have to. Like, okay, here's the deal: either you tell him, or get the fuck out of here. Like, you're fired.
Mm.
And oh, damn it, and so then they tell him, and it's always rewarding, because they've been blocking the love. Because how could you love me if you knew me? That's the story. How could you love me if you actually knew what I was thinking, what I was feeling, what I thought about you, what I, like all this internal shit that is weighing them down. So then they carry around two burdens: one, the stuff that's in their head, and two, what they think you think about them, or what, like, as a woman, what you think they think about you. And it's all a story. It's not true. So the spiritual piece starts and ends with honesty, exposing your fears, stop lying, exposing your lies, getting it out there, and being free from any threat that could take you out. And so if you have that, your ecosystem is constantly going to be out of balance. You're going to have these crazy things happening all the time. And that's why my life was so out of balance with like highs and crazy highs and lows that were also emotional crazy highs and lows. Whereas now, yeah, I've got some highs and lows and everything else, but I'm content. And you can't, like, no one can take me out. You can threaten me, you can do this, you can expose me. I'm like, I've already done that. Like, people have been like, well, if you do this, I'll tell everybody this. I'm like, here, let me do it for you. Here's a podcast about how I fucked everything up and lost millions of dollars. Like, good luck, have fun with that. Oh, here's a podcast how I had an affair once. Here's a podcast about how I was addicted to porn and masturbation. Here's a podcast about how I did this. Here's a like, what else you want to know about me? Like, I don't give a shit, because now nobody can hurt me. You can't affect me. So I'm very content. And also, I got nothing to hide from God either. Like, you can't hide from God anyway. But when you're not hiding from man, you're also not hiding from God. And life is so much better and so much easier. And so the ecosystem of my life dramatically changed around, a few years back when I finally beat some final addictions and everything else. It doesn't mean I don't have my challenges. Okay. Like, nowhere near perfect, but it's a balance that begins to come into play, that now I look at this ecosystem and I'm going, how do I want it to go? Or do I want disaster? What am I doing here? And so every time I begin to see something that's like, you know what, that could be a little better. You know what, I could be handling my business finances a little better than I am. You know what, I should probably pay those toll bills because that's a little bit fucked up. Like, I hate paying them, but it's like, yeah, I better probably just pay them. Like, I don't, it's a weight on a financial thing that yeah, much as I hate these bastards, I'm gonna, it's like my responsibility. I need to just do it. Okay.
Pay the toll bills.
Yeah. So, sometimes it's little things, but the more I expose, the closer I get, the more steps I take, the closer it gets. So, anything you want to?
I don't think so. I think that was just really great. Yes.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
you said I'd be talking most, so I did most of the talking. So, but
Mm.
it's just a way to look at life differently, to say, what am I dealing with here? Get your pen and paper out and be like, you know, I I feel like if there's an ecosystem I need to address in my life, that I want the storms to stop. What are the effects? And if it's the body, you might go around the body, but just make sure you kind of go, okay, I've got the body here, but the spirituality is affecting the body.
This is why I think you're such a good coach, is because a lot of times we have like a problem, and we think it's like a problem in one area, where you will come in and say, actually, no, we need to look over here
Mm,
because we need to address this, and this will fix this.
yeah,
And but oftentimes when we're in it, we don't see that. We just think it's like it's just the relationship, or it's just this, or it's just this. But it's like, no, you can go in and actually say, no, we need to look over here because this is going to affect this, which will affect this, which will, and then you
yeah,
can really diagnose the problem within the whole
yeah,
ecosystem.
yeah,
I love the analogy of the ecosystem
yeah,
and how it all works together.
yeah. And honestly, I become part of other people's ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sometimes the hurricane, or sometimes I'm just the rain to seed the crop. Just,
You were
it
the
depends.
hurricane in our ecosystem for a minute, according to Cameron, I think.
Yeah, definitely. According to Cameron, I was Cameron's hurricane.
Yeah, I think anytime and you throw anything kind of new into the ecosystem, like things do get disrupted for a minute,
Yeah,
but again, it always, like you said, it always ends up balancing out in the end. But it's like if we don't have those disruptions or make the changes, nothing changes.
Yeah.
So it's like we have to keep, you know, adding or disrupting or, almost not creating challenge, but bringing in new so we can new growth. It's like
Yeah.
in when like a forest burns down and then the trees regrow. It's like we need to keep the growth needs to keep happening, for the life for our lives. It's our lives here.
Otherwise, we just die, and then
Otherwise,
it's game over. But the world just keeps going.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it was really good.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I hope that at least some of you got something from this, and some of you got pissed off, and some of you probably hate me. Then I've done my job. So, so but for those of you that needed to hear it, I hope that you can appreciate it. I hope that you can see this and also potentially say, you know what, maybe I want to advance this. And for those of you that do want to advance it, specifically, like we like to target like I like to target money sometimes just because it's simple and easy and fun, but more so with the relationship. Like Jen has a lot of high value advice to help women to get what they want. The things that are in your minds that you think you never have, like Jen's done it. She knows how to do it. You should talk to her. And guys, if you honestly want to know how to get your wife to jump you all the time, to wake you up sexy, to put you to bed sexy, and all these things, and to yet have this thing inside of you that says, man, I just want to spoil this woman, man, I just can't wait to get home to her. Like, even though you're thinking, I can't stand her or whatever, imagine if you could convert it into, I can't believe I'm so lucky, God gave me an angel. I can't believe it. If you want to change even your current situation into that, like, then come talk to me, get a hold of me. Like there's ways that you can actually create this, and has nothing to do with her and everything to do with you. And ladies, same goes for you. It's everything to do with you and nothing to do with them. Because I can guarantee you, after speaking with hundreds of women, there's not a single one of you that doesn't have a mask on that I don't come and crack or do something to, but let Jen kind of get you on point so that you know the direction you want to go, to like tell your mind and your soul and your heart, like, this is where I want to go and this is what I'm willing to do. She knows how to align you in a way that I don't. Well, actually, I don't want to. It's like I want to speak to the men to say, like, hey, let's fucking do this. Let's rock it. Let's be men. Like God wanted us to, in a way that's inspirational to other men and women and kids, and we get to actually enjoy life and be who we were meant to be and be fulfilled as a woman or a man. So that to me is cool, and that's what we're going to continue doing and having fun with. And yeah, we'll still pick on the other stuff. I one of the, most of the time people come in and I'm like, okay, so the first thing you need to do is a detox because you're fucked up. so that is a piece of what we do, but there's just a lot of different stuff that can be done, and a lot of things that we can address, and it becomes a lot of fun. And what's the most fun is when people get that peace and freedom, that emotional peace, freedom, connection, intimacy, and everything that just begins to fall into place after that. It's very rewarding to be a participant in those journeys. Okay, so anything else?
That was great.
All right, you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.